Good morning, this is Media Center Ukraine, Odessa. We are starting our briefing day. Our first guests are the representatives of the main department of emergency situations in the Odessa region. We asked them to tell us how to ensure energy saving at home safely and effectively under the condition of blackouts in Odessa. We are having now with us Maryna Martynenko, spokeswoman of the State Emergency Service in the Odessa region, and Volodymyr Pashevych, head of the Emergency Prevention Department of the main department of emergency situations in the Odessa region. Good morning. Just a few words about statistics. And unfortunately, the statistics is showing that we have the increased number of emergency. People get hurt and people die. And we would like to address people because we want us to be heard, because the elementary safety rules can protect you and prevent emergency. Because if we analyze the situation, just the failure to follow the rules in Odessa and in the Odessa Oblast is the main reason of such cases. But the problem is seen all over Ukraine, and our service sees this every day now. Over the last months, when we have faced blackouts and outages, unfortunately, we have seen the increased number of fires because of the improper use of electric appliances. And actually, before all these problems, we kept asking people to turn all the appliances off when they leave home, because the main reason of fires is short circuit. And now this problem has become even more dramatic, because when the power supply is on again, we have changes in the power pressure, and we know that the TV sets, boilers, washing machines are on fire. And when a person waits for quite a long time for the electricity to be back, people try to turn on everything. They want to simultaneously cook, wash, etc. And this is not allowed. Of course, we understand that everyone needs to cook food, needs to wash clothes, but please do this gradually, because when you turn on everything at once, you face overloads. I would like to emphasize once more that every day we face fires in the Odessa Oblast because of the improper use of electric appliances. Volodymyr, do you want to add something to this? No. Okay, the next issue, fire safety in everyday life. So if there is an outage in your apartment, please turn off everything. Every day with our colleagues, we see the consequences. That's why we turn off everything at once, boiler, refrigerators, etc. If you have some food to be preserved, so please put it on your balcony. Because there is no safe electric appliances at home now. Everything is dangerous under these conditions. One more issue that we have now is generators. People buy these generators, they install them. So how to protect yourself when using generators? And we had once the situation when the family of 5 persons was killed by the generator, by the fuel that was burnt in generator. But if we speak about the recent situation, starting from the 1st of November, there were the cases including killed grandfather and his grandson, and other cases when people get to hospital because they were lucky to notice a problem. But anyway, these people get to hospitals. So please follow the rules of how to use generators. And now I would like to give floor to my colleague, Volodymyr. The floor is yours. Maryna, can you turn off the mic to avoid the interferences? As for generators, the state emergency service provides recommendations. We do not have the established rules because this is a new problem for us. But we have recommendations. We recommend to install generators near the houses. No way should you install them on the roof, on the balcony, etc. This is fully prohibited. Now we are studying the standards for installing powerful generators. These generators can be installed in some premises, but again, you should follow the fire safety rules. But as for the household generators, people should understand that such generators should be installed at least 6 meters from a house or another type of building. When people buy generators, they should read the manual carefully, because the manual provides detailed information about how to properly use these equipment. The supplier provides the full information for the safe use of generators. That includes the safe distance, the proper use of certified cables, not to overload your generator, to fill it in only when it is turned off, because we understand that the engine can warm up in generator, and the evaporated petrol can lead to fire. The storage of petrol we should use only certified products for generators. But we know that people use some glass containers to use petrol. But this is very dangerous because this can also lead to fire. And I've already seen such cases in my career. If it's rainy outside, we should protect a generator from water, from rain, because this is 220 volt, and it is very dangerous because people can be killed by current. There are also requirements for grounding of the generator, and all this information is provided in the manual to the generators. We should also remember on how to put off the fire properly. So you should protect yourself. You should have special tools to put off fire. This is the fire extinguisher. I have the question about the recent case in the area which is called Liski, when there was the explosion of a tourist gas container, but it was quite dangerous. Can you explain us how to use them properly? Coming back to tourist heaters, the name contains the word tourist, so we need to use this only outside. But around 30% of Odessa residents use them at home now. It is protected to use these gas cylinders at home because there are specific requirements in terms of the ventilation and other issues. If you still decide to use this tourist gas cylinder at home, you should remember about safety rules. We had the cases when children were poisoned by this gas cylinder because everything was closed. There was no ventilation at home. We do not recommend to use tourist heaters at home, but if you still decide to use them, so please remember about organizing proper ventilation of your premises. When you bring gas cylinders from cold air outside, do not heat them at once, because this also can lead to explosion. And this was the reason of the case that we have recently had in Odessa. Because you use these gas cylinder in the closed environment, and even a lighter can lead to significant damages. Do not use some big pans, etc., because the big pan can also heat the gas cylinder too much. That can also lead to the explosion. So you should use special plates or special pans for this. And actually, you should also check all the connections with the cylinder and lighter. You can use soap for this. You should also put this in a safe place. Volodymyr, sorry for interrupting, because I have a clarifying question to you. This soap solution, can you explain how to use this? So we should use water and soap, and how to do this. You can sprinkle this solution over the cylinder, but it's better to use the cloth or sponge to cover the whole cylinder with this soap solution, because you will be able to see bubbles at once if there is the leakage of gas. Yes, it is clear for you, but ordinary people cannot do not know about this. But actually, I remember that my parents used to do this. I would also like to add, this is not only about the gas heaters, because in the case when 3 children were poisoned with the carbon monoxide, they used this tourist heater to warm up their apartment. But this is forbidden. The people ask this, what we can recommend. We cannot recommend them at all. So, because we should better actually forbid to use them. But we understand that people should do something to survive, especially for the houses where people fully dependent on electricity. So if you decide to use these cylinders, these heaters, please remember about safety rules. And in the case with 3 children, that was a miracle that they survived, because they used the gas heater in a fully closed room. And during that day, there were 5 cases of people being poisoned with carbon monoxide, 11 people in 5 cases. And if to speak about statistics from the 1st November, and there were a lot of cases, 11 different cases for less than 1 month, where people were poisoned with carbon monoxide, and 9 persons of them are children. The children are alive, but they got to a hospital. But again, we have another case with the grandfather and his grandson that were poisoned by generator and died. But every day we see the increased number of the cases. But people now know about consequences. This information is all over the news. But people believe that this can never happen with them. So they do not think about the consequences. So you should check not only gas heaters, but check also gas cylinders, because people now use some large gas cylinders. And in November, we had the case where the gas cylinder exploded and a woman in Belgrade, in the Odesa Oblast, died. And people use a lot of gas cylinders now in their private houses. So you should always check not only gas heaters, but also gas cylinders. In Odessa, there have been recently other cases when there were issues with gas boilers. So now you should everything check back home. All the gas appliances, electric appliances, cables, sockets, etc. And of course, we also have the problem with the ovens that are used also as heaters. That used to be a significant problem before now, but still, you should also check everything back home. Just yesterday or the day before yesterday, we had the cases of emergency situations because of the oven heating. Because now it's cold outside, people want to heat their houses, but the chimneys are not checked, and actually the waste in chimneys is a significant problem now. There can be some other damages, some crackles in the ovens, or people try to dry firewood near the ovens. And they also store petrol near these ovens. There are not so many reasons, but people should always remember about safety conditions. So if we come back to the conditions of storing a cylinder, even the small ones, tourist ones, Vladimir, you've mentioned that people should not heat them too much, because that's why you can't use large pans or dishes, utensils over these heaters. What else should be known about these heaters? So you mentioned that you should wait when you bring these appliances near into the house. We do not have some established standards. We have only recommendations. So we have too little information about the requirements of how to use these appliances. That's why we should follow carefully manuals provided by producers, because this is the better thing we can do now. We can give our recommendations, but these recommendations are subjective. So I would like you to recommend to read manuals carefully. I have one more question to you. Yesterday in a shop, I heard the following. There was the high voltage in the network, more than 220, 250. And in the shop, I heard a person saying that he tried to turn on everything at home to decrease this high voltage. Can you explain why it is not effective? Because the person really tried to decrease the high voltage in the network. Never do this. When you turn on all the appliances, you should remember that everyone does this at the same time. And the transformer station, they cannot stand this overload. Now, we have more than 10 calls over one day when there are some problems in our network because of these reasons. And it is difficult to calculate all the cases, to have forecast. And people think that they should blame someone for this, but this is their fault. Why can't we trace this? Because we can have a lot of short circuits without obvious fire. So we know only about the cases when we're called. But there's a lot of other cases when the equipment is fully damaged, but we are not aware about these cases. That's why we cannot calculate all the cases, because we cannot imagine the whole number that the electricity company, DTEC, gets now when the dashboards, the stations are damaged. And you can use the power stabilizer at home. This will solve the issue of high voltage. Using a stabilizer, you will protect yourself, but you should again get advice of the experts. You mean the stabilizers for the whole apartment. Yes, of course, not for some separate devices. Yes, there are some relays that stabilize voltage, but you should also use the general stabilizer for the whole house or the whole apartment. This will protect yourself from overload and protect your devices and appliances. Because again, you can see now the increased number of requests to repair refrigerators, TV sets, etc. And if it is not allowed to install household generator in the block of flats, what can be done? As far as I know, big generators can be installed for the whole block of flat, for lifts, for water pumps. So, is it safe to use such generators? Let's start from these questions, and then I would like to give possibility to our colleagues to ask the questions. We get a lot of calls. People call with regard to generators, and I have been studying standards and norms for the installment of generators. I'm trying to find the information, but unfortunately, there is not much of this information. Because when they constructed this block of flats, the possibility of use of generators cannot be always envisaged for this. So, of course, people will install these generators, but I would also like to recommend them to put outside or in a separate ventilated premises. Yesterday, I was asked if it's possible to install generator in the underground parking. Of course, no. Because, again, we have the problem of carbon monoxide. If the generator is powerful, then you should store a huge amount of fuel, and you need a place for this. And we understand that you cannot do this in your houses. You should look for premises to store the fuel. But there are a lot of requirements for this storage. If it's diesel, then it's not that dangerous, but anyway, you should always remember about safety conditions for this. So there are requirements to analyzers, etc. So I've been studying the issue for the last 2 days. And there are some standards for the office premises in terms of the separate exit outside, and how to ventilate the premises, and if what to do if there is the leakage of fuel, and actually the emergency valves, etc. And yesterday, I read on some page that there is the draft law to store some amount of fuel without licenses. Perhaps we will be able to find this information on the website of the Verkhovna Rada. Thank you. If you have any questions, and this is the question to my colleagues. Maria Litanska, Digest, Odesa. There, the gas sensors, perhaps people should install them now. Will it help them? The gas sensor, yes, this is the question. Gas analyzers, perhaps, so this is what you mean. I think that in this case, people should get advice from the gas service. And because there are certain requirements for these sensors. I think that it is difficult to use these sensors to check the possible leakage for the gas cylinder. So the gas cylinder, the small one, the small gas cylinder, will explode quicker. Yashvantsov Yevgen, the 7th channel. Have you ever faced the problem when the gas cylinders are connected with the generators, as in the cars? Have you seen such cases already? Luckily, we haven't seen such cases. So we have not had such information yet, and we hope that our citizens will never do anything like this. But perhaps you've seen this because you asked this question. So please explain to people that this should not be done. This mustn't be done because they endanger not only themselves but the people around them. I would like to add, there is a generator that uses gas for its operation. And there are gas cylinders for this, with liquefied gas. But we know that some people, they want to connect to the general line, general network. The second question, the temperature is below zero in Odessa, in the Odessa Oblast. Are you ready to the cases when there will be a power cut in houses for several days, and the heating system will be just frozen? You remember we had such case in Alchevsk. So what should you do, or what should we do in case of frozen pipes? Are you ready to such situations? This is not the question to us because the frozen pipeline, this is not an emergency situation where our service should save people, because we work mainly with emergency situations, with saving people, animals, putting a fire, etc. What can we do now? We have the points of invincibility all over Ukraine. And in these points, which are also under the umbrella of our service, people can charge their devices, they can drink a hot tea or coffee, they can bring their children to play there. This is what can we help people with. But as for the pipelines at homes, this is the responsibility of other services. And the last question, this is the seasonal question, so to say, about fireworks, which are related to holidays. Because we're expecting this New Year celebrations and Christmas celebration. Are you getting ready to this? As far as I know, the fireworks are fully prohibited for sale now. So perhaps people have some stockpiles, but it is not allowed to use this nowadays. So as far as I understand that this year, the fireworks are fully forbidden. So there will be no the sounds of explosion. We hope so. Anatoly Kosin, Media Center Ukraine, Odessa. I have a question to Maryna. This is kind of a clarification. You've mentioned that in November there were 11 cases of people being poisoned, including 9 children. Can you tell us about the general number? That was not in November, that is starting from November till the present moment, so during a month and a half. During this time, there have been 4 explosions, the gas heater, one case, in another case, gas cylinder in Belgrade, the cases that we've covered today, and also the problem with the gas boilers room. 1 people was killed and 2 were injured. And also there were cases of the poisoning with carbon monoxide. For example, in Belodnistrovsk district, 2 children were poisoned with carbon monoxide because there was used oven for heating. And that day, 3 children were also poisoned during in another village. And also, there were 3 cases in Odessa. For example, they used the fireplace, improperly used fire locks for fireplace, and also the problem with the boiler. And there were cases with a child. Was found one family where were two adults and one child, and one more case with two adults. The next day, we had the case of two persons injured because they were poisoned with carbon monoxide because they improperly installed generator. Apart from these cases, except for these cases, there are the candles, there are the fires caused by candles. And candles are a quite frequent reason for fires. So please remember about precautions when you use candles, because we have children, we have cats, we can have dogs that can just run and just overthrow the candle. This is also the reason for fire. Michael Versur, a Newsweek journal, you've mentioned a lot of cases of improper use of the new devices and equipment. And you've also mentioned the problem related to outages. Maybe this is the cases of more poor and elderly people. So what problem is of major significance when there is improper use of devices, equipment, and or when people does not have anything for survival. We cannot ban usage of any devices. We can only provide recommendations. This is for people to decide what is better for them. Of course, we understand that we have families, we have small children. Of course, people should cook food, should feed their children. That's why there are some solutions. But if you find some solutions, please follow the safety rules. Please read the manual carefully. And because the manuals usually provide all the information in terms of safety precautions and to avoid any emergency, please follow carefully all the safety rules. Thank you. I have the last question. As far as I understand, the generator is not recommended for the block of flats, and the only option is the charging station, which is connected to the line like a big battery. Can you say that this is a safe power supply device? You cannot say that any device can be safe when it comes to electricity. So this is the way out of the situation. A lot of devices are advertised at the moment, and we can read the information from the social media when batteries, power banks just explode. So we cannot say that these devices are 100% safe. There are different types of batteries, for example, which use acid. And people just try to charge these batteries, these power banks at home as soon as they have power supply. There are a lot of requirements when it comes to charging of acid batteries, because even during charging such devices, there is the carbon emission. So this is not allowed to charge car batteries at home. If you do this, you should ensure the ventilation, the proper ventilation. I understand that people do this at home. But actually, this is why we invited you today, for you to provide the information how to make it as safe as possible. I can agree with our colleagues that when call for people not to do this, but every day when I go along my street, I can see and hear generators that are installed on balconies. When it comes to acid batteries, they should be installed in garage or in another ventilated premises to avoid explosion, because they emit hydrogen, even when they're charged. I tried to use such a device at home, but I didn't like it. Because this is the task of experts, how to use them properly. So no amateur should install this. So everything should be based on professional recommendations. So even the charger in our mobile phones, smartphones, is not safe because cable can be damaged, causing fire, and we've seen such cases. So you should always get recommendations from experts and to follow these recommendations, and of course to remember about fire safety. When you say that you read such cases in social media, you mean the cases when people use car battery, acid car battery, connected to inverters to turn on their appliances, home appliances. I've seen all kinds of cases in social media. So we can say that they shouldn't buy these devices, but people do not listen to us. But if people face such cases, they will be more precautious in the future. I've mentioned that every person remembers about their safety only when their relatives are endangered when they face such cases personally. But perhaps they will be more precautious when they learn about the statistics. Thank you. We will finalize our briefing. I'm very thankful for being here today with us, and we hope that you will come to us once again to provide even more recommendations. We will have our next briefing in 20 minutes, so please stay with us.